Hi, great morning, everybody. Welcome back to Chai Together. I am your host and founder, Pratibha Day. Today, you are tuning in for your cup of courage, hope, and imagination. We use courage on this platform to showcase our stories. We use hope to overcome, and we use imagination to resonate and understand with the stories that are being shared. So, with that, I'd like to welcome my prior professor, Mr. Dr. Emmanuel Cherilien. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How are you feeling?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Pratibha?
I'm doing great too. This is going to be different. I've never had a professor on, so um, yeah. Just let them know.
And then the personal professor at that.
Just let them
So,
know that I was an A student. Like, just let them know. So, do you remember
yes,
that?
you were one of my best students. Yes.
I like that.
Comparative religion class, where we took religion side by side. So, one of
Hmm.
my favorite courses to teach. I still remember you, and I'm glad that we actually reconnected back.
So
So,
you don't
this is
teach
our
it anymore.
timing. What happened?
You don't teach it anymore.
Man, due to COVID, I took a
Hmm.
little break from teaching.
Hmm.
So I'll start to be 2022, but right now, no, I took a break from teaching. It
Wow.
was too much since we're going to be talking about mental health
Hmm.
to trying to teach during this time. I felt like, and you know me as a teacher, I like to connect with my students, and I had a
Hmm.
hard time connecting virtually like that. So I'm a in your face, in your classroom kind of thing. So I took a break, 6 months, 1 year, and then I'll come back to the classroom.
I like that. And I always knew what your views were because of the, bias. You can't have any bias, right? And conflict of interest and
Yep,
stuff in that class. But like, do
yep.
you share your views like with the public or like others, like outside of class, like what your views are on religion?
No, I actually don't. So
I always
because
knew what
I
it was.
feel
I was like, he's like me. I know it. And at the end of the day, the last class you told us your views. I was like, I fucking knew it. Like, I knew
Yeah, I'm a very open-minded thinker,
that.
and
Uh-huh.
I hate to be boxed in. And so I
Yeah.
think when I'm like asked to views, it's almost like saying, "What box do you want to be in?" And I
Oh,
don't want to be in any box. I'm very fluid, and so I try to teach. And that's one thing I'll say quickly about the class. I tried my best to teach that class as the person who would represent the religion. So when I did Hinduism for
mhm.
that week, I became Hindu, and when I did Islam, I become a Muslim because I don't want to shortchange the religion with my biases. So I try to really give the students a taste or feel of what the spirit of that religion actually is.
Wow. That must be hard to do, right?
Oh my God, yes, you have to be disciplined. You have to be intentional about it, and it's because of my experience as a student. I've went through a lot of professors and they're teaching, but you could hear their slant in it. And I'm like, if I ever become a teacher or professor, I'm
Mm.
going to try to make sure that I intentionally stay neutral so the students can arrive at their solution and not mine. So that was intentionally
Yeah.
done.
I couldn't tell, but I felt the spirit. So,
Well, then I did my job then, right?
yeah. All
But
right.
yeah,
So let me tell the viewers about you. Okay. May I?
okay.
Okay.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So Dr. Emmanuel Cherilien is an education specialist with his education doctorate with over 20 years of experience in the field of education and leadership. He's also known as Dr. Tank, currently serves on the board of directors for Catholic Partnership Schools in Camden County, New Jersey. He's a certified motivational speaker focused on dismantling the school to prison pipeline. He's also a professor, education consultant, and director of T.A.N.K Mentoring Program for all 21 counties in New Jersey, assisting ex offenders with reentry access. He brings extensive expertise in a broad range of subjects, including servant leadership, social emotional learning, and DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's also researching. His research in college access is in underserved communities, inspired the formation of TANK EdDucates LLC. And you can buy your merchandise in the link above and learn more at tankeducates.com. That's TANKEDDUCATES.com. So,
Absolutely.
wow.
Yeah. A
How many
lot
years
since the last time we met.
Huh?
I said a lot has transpired since the last time I met you in the classroom.
I know. How do you feel?
Listen, Pratibha, I feel like I'm living my purpose, and there is
Wow.
no better feeling in the world. You know, some people think it's all about money, it's
Hmm.
about power. For me, Since I've known you, it's always been about purpose. And I try to tell all my students, find out, discover who you are. And once you find that, life gets much easier. So this is beautiful for me right now.
Wow. May I ask you, so
yeah,
when did you start the T.A.N.K Mentoring Program? Like when did that idea come to mind to do that?
When did that idea come up?
It's been years.
That's a good question. I can't pinpoint exactly when it came to mind, but I knew I always had to do it. And see, I had a corporate job. I was making, the traditional 6 figures, traveling the world. So I had what society has told me is success. But I always knew this wasn't it, man. Like there was something I had to do that would change lives, impact people. That wasn't about money. So my thing is, I always knew I had to do it. So at the age of 40, most people feel like that's your rebirth year.
Really? I'll find out in 20 years.
Yeah, you get that midlife crisis time. You just like, I got to make sure I make this thing count. You get one chance, right? So around age 40, I said, this is the time I'm going to do it. So a couple of years ago, I launched 2019, and I haven't looked back since.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So this is when you started your entrepreneurial journey, was in 2019?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm so surprised, because what I knew as a teacher, it's like, I'm surprised that you didn't start then, like with the mindset that you had,
Yeah, so you know how you can kind of tell people what they should do, but inside you find like you're not doing the exact thing that you're telling people. So here I am telling thousands of students, follow your dream, pursue what you're supposed to do in life. But I personally wasn't doing it because I was afraid. I'm in a situation where I have, because I have responsibilities. I have 3 children, a family, 2 properties. Yeah,
I remember one.
Yeah, 3. Yes, I have 3. So my thing was, I had to make sure that I took care of my responsibilities before I launched something for my life journey. So that was what my hesitancy was. But then 2019, I just said, listen, I don't want to live life with regret. I don't want to say I should have done something. And so I said, now's the time, let's go. And I just went full in and it worked out. Thank God.
It's always exciting to find out people who I looked up to from a young age. I was 20, I think, when I had your class, 19 or 20, and something around there. And I was so young, careless. I thought I'm untouchable. Like, when you're young, you feel so free. And there's also someone else who I know who I looked up to. And he also came on and he was sharing how he went through depression, all these things that nothing you would know on the surface. But we don't look at our professors and, adults as if at the time they have something going on. They're afraid, they have fears too. We look at them like, wow, they got their shit together. They got a job. You know what I mean? Like, I would have never thought that for you because you come off so confident.
Yeah. I present well, I guess. But my point is to say, yes, I had fears. I had concerns. My dad, I've seen a man that worked so hard, and he would always tell us, when I retire, I'm going to do this. And when his life got cut short, I'm just like, you can't live life saying one day. So I was teaching you guys, but I'm always saying one day I'm going to do this. I said, no, I'm not going to, basically live the same cycle my dad did. So I took a chance. And what I tell students now is do it scared. I had to learn that. You think that everything always has to be calculated before you make the first step, but I learned how to do things scared. And Martin Luther King once said, take the first step even though you don't see the entire staircase. Because that's kind of scary if you don't know where things are going to lead. Yeah. But I had to do that. And man, one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Wow. So how old are you now, if you don't mind?
If the world is watching, I have no problem saying 43.
Wow, that's still quite young. It's not like it'll still be young even if you're 50s or 60s. But
listen, in my head, I'm still 23, so I'm good.
So it's interesting because most people are starting their entrepreneurial journey like older, like after they work in corporate, etc. And then there's now the younger generation like mine, which is just like, all right, I don't want to work for anyone, like things like that. And do you feel like there's a difference in mindset? Like, do you feel like someone has already like paved the way for us? That's why we think this way, that we don't want to go through other things, that it's kind of like outgrown that like traditional method of doing things. What are your thoughts?
I love your generation.
Oh,
I'm gonna
yay.
tell you why, because I feel like you guys have not listened to the social messages and the status quo, and you challenge a lot of things that just don't make sense. I feel like my generation just kind of went along with what they told us to do: go to school, live the American dream, and kind of we just did it, and we didn't question it. I have students today asking me, I think it's stupid to have a 30-year mortgage. Like, why do you lock yourself for 30 years in one place? And I
Right.
was, you know what? I never thought about it. I just because that's everybody, that's what everyone else did. And so I think
Wow.
what I love about your generation is that you challenge this idea of living in one place for 30 years or having one boss for 50 years. We still hold that with a badge of honor. Like, I've
Ew.
worked at this company for 40 years. And no, you know, depending on your religious belief, one could believe you have one crack at this thing called life. And if
Hmm.
that's the case, live it up, man. Be fluid. You evolve, and so should your jobs and your career choices or where you live. So I love how you guys do not lock yourself down to one thing, and you're really open and challenging to everything that comes before you. So that's actually something that inspires me. And so, yes, I think that's one of the things that I love about this generation, especially the students I'm teaching now.
I like that. Yeah, because I'm a traveler. I think I moved about 6 times this year already,
Oh
and I
my God.
moved states.
Wow.
Like, I was like shifting all in Georgia and like multiple places. I lived in
Mhm.
multiple places, like living life. Like, this is, I live in the now, but that not everyone's like that. Other people have
Yeah.
responsibilities, like you said, but I don't
Yes.
have kids. I'm choosing not to have kids. So it's like I can live for me. Like, that is just like me. So
I just saw that actually, like probably a day ago, about
yeah.
or maybe 3 hours ago, about
Yeah,
your
I made
decision
the video
not to have.
last night.
Okay,
And
so that's what I saw. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and for me it's like it takes courage to speak up about that. You know, it's so
Oh
personal.
yeah. Oh
Yeah, it's
yeah.
so personal.
Mhm.
And that's what I do. So it's like I'm very bold when it comes to things like that, because
Yeah.
people need that space and to be heard and to know that you know, that's normal as well. Maybe not to you, but to other people. You know,
Correct.
it is. So anyway,
Mhm.
I want to ask you. I recently saw a post where you were with the governor of Jersey, Brian
Yeah.
Murphy, right? Tell us
Yes.
about that and the bill that was passed and what you were working on with that for the underserved, you know, youth and all, right?
Yes. So that bill specific was the work that I do with ex offenders.
Hmm.
So what I do a lot of work with the state of New Jersey when someone's released from prison.
Hmm.
I feel like systemically we set them up to go right back to prison. And what I mean by that is they can't find a job. In some cases, they can't get financial aid or go to school. So if I can't work or educate myself, I then go back to the streets. And so the other variable that I came to place after working with them is that they face housing discrimination. Once people see they have a record, they do not let them rent from them. And so, what was so special about the bill, and New Jersey is actually one of the first states in the country to actually sign this bill, which our hope is that now this will go national eventually, is
Wow.
to take that box off on rental applications that say, did you have a criminal offense? Because
Wow.
meet the person first. After you interview the potential tenant, and if you decide then you don't want them to rent, that's fine. But these individuals are getting disqualified before even getting a chance to present themselves or their case, or
Mhm.
show their income, or show their background that they would take care of the property. So why that was such a huge success for us is that we were one of the organizations that basically drove this bill and supported it, and to see the governor sign it, and now it's the law of the state of New Jersey, and now we are now taking
Wow.
another challenge off of these individuals' path was a huge success for all of us.
Wow. What you're doing is so important. And I feel like not enough people do it. Like, they don't focus on this aspect, right? So many individuals are so focused on looking out for themselves, or like,
Mhm.
especially in these times,
Yeah,
that they're not focused on helping others, or I don't have $25 to donate, or et cetera, et cetera. And it's like,
right.
it's not about you, you know, you holding on. You're not. So if you know of Ken Honda's book Happy Money, I don't know if you've heard of it.
Never heard of it, but I will look into it.
Yeah. So Wahi Takedo is the Warren Buffett of Japan, and so Ken Honda studied from him. That was his coach. He was a billionaire. He passed away now, but Ken Honda is still alive, and he shares the method of arigato. Arigato means thank you in Japanese. That whenever you exchange money to feel the money, say thank you to, because it's just an exchange of energy. So my whole point is that a lot of people basically in their life, they don't make moves because it's either mostly financial, spiritual, or emotional. Like those three things I feel like are the pillars to why people don't help others, or they want to be bystanders, or it's another word for it, kind of just starts with the S. I can't remember. But anyway, the whole point is that people don't take action because honestly, we were talking about fears before. So it's like they have fears within themselves that, what is it going to make a difference that if I do this little bit? And it's like, it does. So if people understand the value of themselves, value of power of energy, then I feel like more change will come. But when people are stuck in their own thinking or negative thinking or their old habits, the paradigms, then it doesn't, So that's just my intake on that.
No, you're right. And I always tell and challenge everyone, I say three simple words. Just do something. Like, stop looking at the whole mountain. Whatever your lane is, just do something. And if everyone just did something, I think we would see drastic changes in our community. So, I think, unfortunately, what you presented is this idea that when we do things, it's always, what do I get out of it?
Yeah.
But no, what do something for others. And if you drive that, I think we'll see better changes in our society. So that's my motto. I feel like when we do things for others, in my estimation, God will do things for you. So
I like that.
Yeah.
So you do believe in a God?
Yes, I believe in God. Absolutely.
Okay. So tell us more about, TANK. Is that an acronym for something? What is that about?
So believe this, you're gonna laugh at this. T.A.N.K Tank is my street name. And
I remember that story.
So yeah, Tank is my street name. I got it working out and playing football and stuff like that. And so everyone's like, "Oh, that's small Tank. He's pretty strong." And so what I wanted to do, I didn't want to get educated and forget where I came from. And so what I did was I took my street name and made it into an acronym, T.A.N.K. Made T for teaching, A for advocacy, N.K. for necessary knowledge. So I go around and I advocate necessary knowledge. And I built a company around the street name. And so that's why I'm very adamant of the whole Dr. Tank thing, because people who know me as Tank is like, yo, he just threw a DR in front of it and stayed the same guy. And so I wanted to keep that message that I haven't changed. I'm still Tank, but we're about to get this work and we're going to start teaching and advocating for our kids so we can get them to address a lot of the disparities that we see in minority education.
Will you share the story about your dad and what you were doing before you started going to school?
Yes. So I have a background that I hate. My parents are Haitian immigrants, and from an immigrant perspective, when you think of America, you think of the land full of milk and honey, and that everyone's successful here. So a lot of immigrants will do whatever they can to get to this country, and so my parents were a product of that, and they brought us here. And my dad was very strict. Very fundamentalist Christian perspective. We went to church 5 days a week. Very, very, so I was pretty much a straight A student with my dad. I played 8 instruments. I was gifted and talented. So the whole bits of education was there. And then on October 10th, 1994, we were watching Monday Night Football. He told us he was going to get some pizza, and he never returned. And we got a phone call a few hours later asking us to identify the body. And that happened to be my dad. My life totally went out of whack after that. Started hanging with the wrong people. Grades dropped tremendously. Started smoking weed, drinking, doing all the things that everyone in society tells you not to do. I was doing those things, not going to school. And I think I just really didn't know who I was anymore, because I knew who I was through my dad. And so now I tell a lot of parents, be careful when you're that overbearing parent, because the kids don't know their identity. They only know themselves through you. And so when you remove yourself, these kids
Wow.
tend to be lost. And so that's what happened to me. I think one day I was sitting there smoking a blunt. Um,
I have to laugh at it.
yeah, and I could have sworn I seen my dad walk by. And I was like, yo, what the? And I was so embarrassed, ashamed that here's a man that sacrificed everything to get me to this country called America, and I was actually smoking it away. And that day I got up and went to a community college called Union County College, and that school changed my life. The beautiful thing about community college, not to be too long-winded on this answer, but the beautiful thing about community college, they accept everyone. So even though I had D's and F's and barely graduated high school, community college will give you a chance. And
Oh
because
my
they took a
God.
chance on me, here I am now, a doctor of education.
Wow. I think that's just so. Do you feel like it was your? Do you feel like you were hallucinating? You don't know until this day what that was.
It was either hallucination, a spirit, or
Yeah.
some good weed. One of the three things happened there, but I definitely felt like I really saw him, and he
Mm,
was, and the look on his face was like he was so ashamed of me. And
damn.
that,
Yeah.
that was enough for me to say that I got to change my life around.
I think the good weed led to the hallucination, but no, I truly believe. Um, no, I think that was your subconscious. You knew you were doing wrong. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
see,
you
now we're going into that comparative religion class, the
are
subconscious.
we? Oh,
That's deep, though. Yeah, that's something that I'm still trying to figure out how that all comes together. When we talk
maybe
about
you should do a hypnotherapy session.
listen, I'm actually in talks with a woman in
Yeah,
London to do some
I've
kind of.
I've had it. Yeah.
Oh wow, how
Yeah,
is it?
it's transforming. It definitely
Wow,
helped you get stuff out. I
wow.
only had one so far, but then you listen to a recording that follows the session for a month, and
Okay,
things come up. Like I was having vivid dreams about things that I don't consciously think about from my past. Yeah,
that is interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
things
So
are
now
cleared
you
up.
now you got me looking this up after the interview.
What did you say?
I said now you're gonna have me look this stuff up after the interview.
Yeah, you should. And Reiki is good too. I'm Reiki 2 certified. So Reiki also works. I feel like to each their own, but I feel like a combination of therapies really helps with healing and figuring
Mm,
things out on what it really is. I don't feel like it's just one thing. You know what I mean? I
mhm.
feel like it's a combination of things to like break everything down in your life,
Wow,
you
that's
know?
deep. That's
So
deep.
that's what I do. So I want to ask you,
Yes.
so was your dad who cared for you? Like was your mom in the picture during that time?
Yeah, my mom's in the picture, but you understand it was five of us. So
Yeah.
now you have a single mom trying to take care of five kids. And the other thing about my story, um, my dad was this authoritarian, dominant father figure.
Mm.
And he kind of ran the household. So my mom wasn't really the decision maker. So he
Oh,
did everything. And so when he is taken from us, not only were the kids lost, but if I could be honest, my mom was lost. She had to almost rediscover herself as well because she didn't really have an
wow.
identity in this as well. So that's how much of a force he was. And
Wow.
so what I would say is that, you know, she had to basically learn how to manage. So, so I think her hands were kind of full. So we were all kind of left to our own to kind of figure this game out. And, one of us took a bad turn. The other four are doing really good. Actually, to shout out my two brothers who may be listening, um, they both became homicide detectives
Hmm.
because of this situation. So now their job is to find people who are murdering people on these streets. So
I remember
um,
that.
tragic situation bursts a lot of like powerful stories.
Wow. Do you feel you'd be where you are now if your dad was still in your life because he was so strict, or do you feel like you just wouldn't? It wouldn't be the same. You wouldn't be as happy or something.
Man, I hate to say this, but no, I would not be where I'm at right now. My dad was a very, I told you, authoritarian figure. So he told you who you were going to and he was going to succeed him as pastor of the church. So that means that I would have no choice but to be running a congregation right now. So
Oh my
I
God.
think,
Oh
so I think I've always knew. I don't know if that was my calling,
no. Mm-hmm.
but he told you your call. So things that happen that we think are bad sometimes need to happen for other things to happen. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying I wanted my dad to die, but I
Yes.
understand how that was part of Tank Educates and how we created what we got going on right now.
Wow. Tell us more about Tank Educates. Like, what are the things you do, your organization does? Yeah.
Yeah, so as a professor, since you know me from that role,
Mm-hmm.
I was tired of seeing students who look like me not prepared for college. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I felt like every time I saw students who looked like me walk into the classroom, I saw the effects of the communities they came from or the high schools or maybe their family background.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, if I'm seeing that at the college level, what about the kids that don't even make it to college? Like, who's helping those kids? And so I almost felt guilty um, making the corporate job and preaching and living this life and traveling the world. And I felt like I was leaving so many kids behind that I know I can do something about. And so that's really the genesis of me start thinking I got to do something. And so I said I'm going to
Wow.
start a company that's going to address exactly that. I want to make sure that students, especially minority students, are engaged in the educational process. I think the reason why so many of us are, behind academically or don't like school is
Mm-hmm.
because school doesn't reflect any of our values. And so my company puts pressure on schools and school systems and colleges and organizations to be more culturally responsive. And for your
Wow.
guest here, all that really means is that making sure that every student or every employee feels included in the space. We can't be running spaces that don't uh, make everyone feel welcome. And I think school doesn't make us feel welcome. And so I spend a significant of my time teaching teachers strategies on how to make their students feel welcome in the classroom environment. And I do that not only in the classroom space, in the education space, now I'm doing that in the corporate space, and now I'm also doing it in the re-entry space.
Wow. It's interesting because, I recently learned that only it's 94% white for psychology, like as in, the ethnicities that are working in the field, because
Mhm.
I'm going to be a speech pathologist. But even
Nice.
in my field, mainly Caucasian, and it's really rare to see minorities. Like, I think you're the only Black professor slash, teacher figure that I ever had. Like, I don't remember anyone else. So,
Well, the
like, do you know the
statistics,
statistics on that? Like,
yeah,
wow.
88% of teachers, especially in minority public schools, are white women. 88%.
Wow.
School- Nationally, only 2% of educators are black men. So there's just like this huge gap. And I'm trying to make education cool again. So I don't know if you can see my shirt, but it says
Yeah.
rapper, athlete, or educator. Because
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say we need more of us in that space. We can't all be rapping and playing sports. We need our kids to see us in these spaces.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping to inspire more people, especially of color, to get into the education space and teach our babies. Because just you standing in the classroom, even as a professor, when you guys would leave, many of those students, especially African American men, would wait for class to be able to come up to me and be like, "You're the first teacher I've had that looked like me, and it's just an honor to see. Like you inspire me to go into teaching, or you inspire me to pursue my dreams." And so I just think just our mere presence would change a lot in the education space.
Wow. There does need to be more, because there's a school psychologist that I know of, and I have both of his books, and I believe in the book, don't quote me, but it said where a child saw him, for speech pathology for, their session, and the child was like, are you my dad? Or like thought like,
Mhm.
because it's a Black man, like, or it could relate, like, are you my family or something, like, because they're like, what is a Black man doing in my school? You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting how a child was blown away that, are you supposed to be here? Like, you know what I mean?
Listen, and a lot of, my white colleagues, like when I do these professional development at
Yeah.
schools, I try to get them to understand it because, sometimes if you're in it, if you have the privilege, you don't see
Mhm.
how it's privileged. So what I usually say to, my teachers, I would say, especially my Caucasian teacher, I said, imagine going to a church that you did not know. Like you said, I'm
Mhm.
just visit a church or visit a school, and you go in there and you're the only. How would you feel? And they're like, that would be awkward. Sometimes that's how some of these kids go from K to 12. They feel that awkwardness throughout school. So a lot of them actually think they hate school, and that's not really the case. It's just they don't feel a part of it. And so we have to find out ways, even when that is the environment, how do I include you in the stories that I use, the examples that I use, the textbooks, the pictures I have on the wall? All that is indirect messages to kids that say that you matter, that you are in that space.
You know, this reminds me of a student when I was substitute teaching here in
Mm-hmm.
Edgewater Park, because I'm licensed for the state as well. And when
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching, there's a Black child who was singled out because that's a bad child. And
Mm-hmm.
using inclusion, no, we don't speak about him like that. Like telling, because, oh no, he's bad. Like all the students are like, he's bad. He always stays in that corner. No, no, no. We're not doing that in my class, you
Yep.
know? So for the first time, he felt like, he's like, they always say bad about me. It's like, you doing that to a child, putting them in like a corner position and treating them that way, that's where they belong, that is
Yep.
a hell no. And I wish I had a power voice then to say something to the school or
Mm-hmm.
point that out, because I would have definitely done something more than having, because after I'm gone that day of subbing, I'm gone. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what
Absolutely.
happened to that child. He got put in that corner position for the rest of the school year because you're bad. Like, for how long? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
And furthermore, how does that help the situation?
it
You
does not.
just basically alienated the kid, which now they're really going to be disengaged, which is now going to start going into the outcome. So now they're not going to perform as well in the test. They're not going to perform as well. They don't have the notes. So when you start
That's
really
sad.
thinking about this, all this works together. We have to find ways to better engage those kids and not alienate them and put them in corners.
This is so sad. I just had a sad moment. No, and it's I don't like, I've subbed a lot for different grades, and I've
Mm-hmm.
never seen, and this is just from my experience, I've never seen a white child and called me
Mm-hmm.
bad. From my experience of subbing, I think about 4 years, like, in Delran and here, it's like I've never seen somebody talk to, a child that's Caucasian that way, like, oh, that's a bad child in the school, in the class. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so the
Interesting to
statistics
me.
are clear that minority students are 3 to 5 times more apt to get expelled, suspended, disciplined harsher, and we see those same statistics happen after they graduate in society when we talk about incarceration that disproportionately. So these punishments start at a very early age, and unfortunately, a lot of these teachers don't know. These are like subconscious biases
There
that
we
you
go.
carry with you into the classroom, and you unfortunately tend to be harsher on Latino and African American students unknowingly. Yeah.
Wow. Do you feel you'd ever do a training or a program or something like this in schools, or have you already?
This is what I do.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
wow.
so what we're doing right now is
Yeah.
what I do for work. I go around and I have
Wow.
these seminars and workshops to kind of help you uncover your biases.
You need
I'll
to
give
go over
you
to Edgewater, Edgewater Park, though, right?
I, I'll give you a quick example of how it actually looks. Um, you have you have 2 kids in the front row. You have Billy, who happens to be Caucasian, and you have
Mhm.
um, um, Taekwon, who happens to be African American, right?
Mhm.
And I asked a simple question to Billy and Taekwon, the same question. I
Mhm.
say, Billy, what's 3 plus 3? And Billy says 5. A teacher, this is what tends to happen. Come
Mhm.
on, Billy, it's not 5. Try again.
Mm.
6. There you go. I knew you could do it. Now I asked that same question to Taekwon. What's 3 plus 3? And Taekwon says 5. I'm not even wasting my time. All you do is play around in class. Just sit
Mm.
in the corner. Sit in the corner. what happens now, Billy, even though he got the answer wrong, Billy would still be engaged. Billy will still raise his hand. Billy still thinks he's smart. Taekwon will never raise his hand again. He's now disengaged. He feels stupid. He feels dumb. And now what I'm trying to show teachers, you turn Taekwon that way and you turn Billy that way by your biases. So if we can undo our biases, we can now engage Taekwon and Billy and make all kids engage in the classroom. That's the power of a good teacher. But a lot of them don't see their power influence and how you speak to kids and how you discipline them and how you encourage them will show up in outcomes and in their test scores and in their grading.
You know, something that comes to mind is, what if anyone ever come to you and said this, as in that that like, oh, we're discriminating against Caucasians now by, you know, saying these things. What do you say to that?
What did I say to reverse discrimination? Is that what
yeah.
The honest truth is that if something's unfair,
mm-hmm.
you have to dismantle it so it can be fair. So the process of dismantling it may take some privilege from you. Mm-hmm. But if you care about being fair, you should be willing to give away some of your privilege to equal the playing field for everyone else. So I think what many are arguing is when they have to give away some of their privilege. Mm-hmm. And I think that speaks more to them than the actual taking it away. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does. And you know,
so that's my answer to them, is that sometimes I don't know if I don't know if I had a head start and someone's behind me, we want to really have a fair race. Mm-hmm. I have to stop running for a little bit so that way we can be at the same pace and then we can start the race. But if you keep running and you have the head start, I'll never catch up to you. So it's going to take some privilege giving back so that way we can really have a fair and equal playing field, if that's really what everyone wants. But I don't think that's what people want. I think that sounds politically correct, but when it's time to do the work, we then shy away from it.
Yeah, because that's what equity is about. It's like fairness, because there's a difference between equality and equity. Do you want to speak on that?
Yes. So, you know, what I would say is equality is saying we give everyone the same. Look at the context and makes a decision who we give what to. So I'll give you an example. If someone has $10, someone has $5, and someone has $0, equality would say I'm $1. Well, would that be fair? Because now the kid that had 10 now has 20. The kid that has 5 has 15. And the kid that has 0 has 10. Now they're still because so the equitable thing would do is let's get everyone to $10. Mr. 10, you're getting nothing. Mr. 5, you're getting 5, and Mr. 0, you're getting 10. And that sounds unfair, but the outcome will be fair. So that's the part of giving the privilege away.
So interesting. So what is your big dream for your organization? Do you have a big dream, like globally?
My big dream is for TANK EdDucates LLC to run curriculum throughout this country and honestly throughout the world. I want to go back to the continent of Africa and the country of Haiti and kind of look at their curriculum and make sure that we don't have just this Eurocentric one way to education, that it is balanced with culture. So we look at the student context, including Asian students. So although I spend a lot of my time talking about Latino and African American, a lot of the arguments could still be made for our Asian students.
I'm Asian.
Hey, I'm there with you, meaning that we don't include, you know, your Heritage Month. We don't talk about any holidays. We just focus on our American stuff and just say you have to assimilate to it. And so what I'm really pushing is the same way we have Black History Month and Hispanic and Women's Day. We have to kind of look at the cultural context makeup of our schools and classrooms and then decide a curriculum or how the school year will shape up after that. You can't just have this one way and then no matter who comes into the classroom, they have to adapt to it. That's traditional. That's the old way of education. I'm trying to push this new way of educating that look like curriculum around.
Wow. I feel like you'd be doing this till like your 80s or so on. Like, I feel like the rest of your
Yeah,
life, even if it takes you
this is
40
my
years.
listen. This is my life work. For people, at the end of the day, it's just like
So funny.
I saw what was wrong, and I wanted to do something about it. I could have just did what everyone else do, go through the education system. Like that sucks. Well, I'm glad I'm done with it. Let me live my life. But I felt guilty. I said, listen, if God allowed me to get to the level of Doctor of Education, I'm going to use that degree now to go back and fix all the
Hmm.
things that I saw wrong when I was growing up that I still see wrong today, that I actually outlined in my dissertation as well.
I like that. And I want to say that I feel credentials do make a difference because would
Yes,
they listen to you if you didn't have your doctorate?
listen. And so people always ask me, like, why'd you get your doctorate? You know, that's exactly the reason
Why
why.
do you think I'm getting mine?
Yeah, because I swear to you, there are things I say right now that I said 10 years ago. But it was just like, oh well, that's just Emmanuel's opinion. Now I say it as Dr. Cherilien is like, oh, this let me take notes.
Oh
I
my
would say the
God.
same thing. So what I'm saying is unfortunately we're in the world of credentialism that
Uh-huh.
uh, people don't want to hear what you have to say unless they see letters behind your name. And then once they see letters behind your name, now they want to hear what you have to say. And so I played the game. That's what I have to do to make you listen. I'm gonna get the credentials and I'm gonna come back with the same message that I probably had 10 years
God.
ago, saying that this is what we need to do to fix schools.
So was this, like the Board of Ed that wasn't listening, or like was it like, the higher
Well, for
authority?
me, yeah, it's higher up.
Yeah.
It's at the Board of Ed level. So the other thing I didn't mention that I do, but you did say it in my bio, is
Hmm.
that I now sit at the board of directors in Camden schools
Yeah.
for about 6 schools in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And because you know what, we can have these Facebook Live, these conversations all we want, but if we're not sitting at those tables, if we're not where the decisions are actually being made,
Hmm.
it's just a good like, comment, share, and then we're done. But
Hmm.
now, true conversations are starting to happen now because I'm at the table. I'm in the room. You can't say these um, racist jokes anymore or have
Mm.
these racist practices anymore because you have someone of color sitting in a room that's actually in the room of decision making. So I
Wow.
feel like I want to position myself in a way that I could now be at the table and I could help get these practices and theories that we're talking about all the way down into the classroom. When we
Mm.
talk about hiring practices, when we talk about culturally relevant pedagogy, when we talk about textbook selection, curriculum, now we're having those kind of conversations at a higher level.
Yeah. I feel like I'm ready to be at the table. I'm ready to be at the table.
You will be.
You know
I
what I
see the
mean?
trajectory. You're on your way. I see it.
Oh, so fun. What else would you like to share today?
Um, I just want kind of to leave your audience with that message.
I like
I
that.
believe all of us, everyone listening right now, all of us have something that burns us, that gets us going, that no one has to force you to do. You would do it for free.
Hmm.
And I think, unfortunately, we suppress that
Hmm.
because we try to do what society has told us is the right thing to do. And a lot of you are in jobs that you hate because I see your post every week. Oh my God, it's Monday. When is Friday coming in?
Really?
Well, not your post.
He was
I'm talking
friend.
about people that I'm friends
Yeah.
with. And
Yeah.
so, what I'm saying to all of you is that find out what makes you tick
Oh, thank
and take
you.
a chance on yourself.
I'm
Take a
Sarah.
chance on yourself. So if you
Wow.
but take a chance on yourself and you follow your dreams and your pursuit in life,
Hmm.
I think you will really live your true purpose and then real change will start happening for you. So that would be my sex message. Take a chance on yourself and do what you were designed to do.
I like that. I do have one question for you though that I
Yes.
would like to ask. So was the most challenging thing in your life regarding your dad passing? Was that the hardest challenge you ever had?
Yeah, that has to be one of the hardest. And the second thing would be this whole Tank Educates thing.
Wow. It is hard. Building a business is really hard.
Especially if you don't have a backup plan. So when I quit, it's not like I had something else.
Hmm.
This was it. And then, crazy enough, the pandemic happens 3 months later,
Wow.
and everything gets shut down. And
Wow.
so I launched a business in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And man, But you know what? That's how you have to be the king of pivot. And I'm pretty sure
Wow.
you've heard that before. Look, my lane was educational space. I pivoted to the merchandise space,
Mm-hmm.
and that really blew up and carried me through until contracts started coming in again. So you have, as an
Wow.
entrepreneur, you have to constantly be thinking of ways to bring multiple streams. So if something shuts down, you can go to another direction.
Mm-hmm. God is good. I woke up this
Oh,
morning to deposit. I was like, where did this come from? I was like, no, I'm serious. Anytime, like a commission wise or something,
mhm.
and I'm just like, I'll be right at the point. I'm like, oh, I don't like. I just be in the now, not stressing out or focus, stay calm. And that
Yeah,
day, like another day, I earned a commission from something I did prior, and I was like, wow, like God is good. Like I'm always like supported. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I was just
absolutely.
like, wow, like I'm never in that way. Like I'm always supported because I guess my energy, keep taking action, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's so cool.
You're in your space, and as your former professor, I'm so proud of you. No, I am. I'm so proud of you because
It's so funny. It's like 10 years ago.
no, I watch you. I can see that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you didn't
Oh,
just
wow.
buy the dream of that we sold you that you have to do this and work 45 hours and do this
I
and
never
I
fit
love what
in.
you're doing. And you're in a space that is so needed. Mental health is so needed because it's a stigma, especially in my community,
Mm-hmm.
where people don't like to talk about it. And so
Mm-hmm.
the more we have conversations about it, it'll make people feel more comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I applaud you and your work.
Thank you. I do
Yeah.
want to ask about your son. I know you had
Yeah.
told us a decade ago. Your son has
Yeah.
autism, right?
Correct. He
How is
does.
he
Yeah.
now?
How old is he now? He's
No, how is
17.
he? How is he?
How is he? He's doing well.
No.
With autism, it's like you'll take 2 steps forward, 3 steps
Mm-hmm.
back, 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. So it's a slow, constant progress, but he's finishing up high school.
Wow.
And then we're now trying to
Congrats.
get him ready for the work field and getting a job, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I also created Tank Educates for. Um, I didn't want to beg someone to hire my son.
Wow.
So if no job wants to give him a chance, because I know how people with disabilities get discriminated against, I wanted to
Mm.
be able to create an opportunity that he can work. He's going to get a job. If you don't give him a chance, we'll give him a chance. But I just didn't want to give that decision to society. I wanted to have control of that as well if I had to.
I really like that. Here in Old Mount Holly, New Jersey, there was a nonprofit called Breaking Grounds Cafe. I don't know if you know of it. If you
Sounds
know of it.
familiar, but I can't say I
Yeah,
know what it
they
is.
hired. It's nearby me, and it's down the street from me. And they hired, students with autism, but now it's shut down due to COVID. So now
Oh,
it's
okay.
replaced. But that was a good place. So autistic students and stuff shared their work. I would buy their paintings, and it was a
Oh,
space
nice.
for them to have work, but now it's no more. And that's the sad thing about we need
Mhm.
more of this, we
Yeah,
need more inclusion for people with autism and other, uh, concerns. I don't want to say disabilities. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, listen, I even learned a lot because um, when I first found out he was diagnosed autistic,
Hmm.
my goal as a parent was trying to make him normal. I thought he had a problem, and
uh,
I'm normal, and my job is to make him like me. And he taught me in the 17 years that he's fine. I need to learn how to make him maximize his life the way he was designed and born, and
hmm.
stop trying to make him who I think he should be. And that's a lesson for all of us, whether we take special needs or not.
Yes.
I think too often we try to make people who we think they should be, whether it's relationships, whether it's our children, and we try to force our view of the world on them. And I think if we spend a lot of time just appreciating people for who they are, that's really the value of life. So I'll end with, since we have religion class, I'll end with Taoism.
Oh.
Um, if you love a flower, let it be,
Hmm.
because once you pick up a flower, it ceases to be what you love. So what basically is saying, when we pull these flowers up and say, "Oh my God, that's such a," you actually kill the flower.
Yeah.
And so if you really love something, let it be and appreciate it at where it's at. So I'll leave it with that.
I personally do. I pick flowers. I'm a nature person, so I am very spiritual. You know, I lived in Thailand for a year, so it's like,
I
hello.
saw that. I
Yeah,
saw
so
that.
it's like
Yeah.
I don't, I'm very calm and I'm very like I don't, you know what I mean? To let people be and let things be. Like it's a
Yeah.
mastery. Like you have to master these skills. Like I'm
Yes.
not perfect at it, but I don't bother things or bugs or animals. Like, you know what I mean? Some people like to just mess around, but anyway.
Yeah, but
I like
yeah,
that
that's
thinking.
the deep way to live. You appreciate everything.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank
It
you so
was an
much.
honor, privilege to be here, and
It
I
was
enjoyed
fun.
talking to you.
Yeah, let people know where once again about your website and the services you offer.
All right. So again, I do a lot of work in the education consulting field. If you are a teacher, educator, school leader, bring me into your schools, bring me into your school districts. I do professional development. I do workshops. If you are in organizations, employee, or if you're the boss, bring me into your organizations. I do a lot of work there in trainings on diversity and inclusion, servant leadership, you name it. But to find out all of my services, go to www.tankeducates with two D's.com, and you can see an array of all my services and the scope of my work. But bring me in. Let's talk about how we can get the workplace as well as the school environment in a place where we include everyone in the space, and that's where engagement, outcomes, and performance will start skyrocketing.
Wow. I really like that. You are a motivational speaker for real.
Thank
And
you.
can
Appreciate
people
it.
follow you on LinkedIn too?
Yes, yes. So I need to be a little more active on LinkedIn, but yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's
Yeah.
Emmanuel Cherilien on your screen there.
Wow.
My IG is at Tank Educates, T.A.N.K EDDUCATS. Facebook, Tank Educates, two words. But yeah, if you go on my website, my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube, all that will be linked on there, and you can follow me on those platforms as well.
Such great, meaningful work.
Thank you.
Wow.
Look, I just want my life to count, Petit, but that's all that matters. I want to make sure
I
that
know. We only have
I'm
one
wasting
time.
time here. Yep. Yeah.
Aw. Thank you. You have a great day.
You do the same. Thank you as well.